Man. Welcome to Woke Up, folks, where I review the latest woke works in this woke world we're living in today. Be that books, movies, TV shows, whatever woke stuff I can find or you can send for me to review. Today I am going to review the highly proclaimed book in the woke world with lots of awards, countless awards, stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. Let's talk a little bit about the authors. First, Jason Reynolds. He is a young, up-and-coming black author. He is all the rage right now in the woke world. Everybody loves him. The guy he wrote, co-authored with, this guy wrote the foreword of the book, Ibram X. Kendi. He basically, I think, had a lot of the ideas behind the book. And Jason was a very talented writer, an interesting writer, and he got him to write his ideas and put his own spin on them to make them a little more conversational, I would guess. But a little bit about Ibram. Ibram is another young black man who you might have heard about recently in the social media world. His daughter came home from kindergarten or some of those young years and told her dad that she wanted to be a boy. Man, Ibram did not like that. He immediately took to social media. Oh my gosh, my daughter's come home and said she wants to become a man. We've got to get all kinds of books in her. We've got to change this immediately. Well, the transgender world got word of this and just said they weren't happy. Apparently, Ibram is not so woke as he thinks he is. Well, enough about the authors. Let's get to the actual book, Stamped. This book is a very well-written book. It is interesting. It makes you go through the pages really quickly. It kind of entices you to each one. It's funny. It flows. It has sarcasm and wit and just a good book. Obviously, Jason Reynolds is a very talented author. It is clear to me from reading this book because he uses a really good trick in his book. We'll just talk about that first. Throughout the book, he says this is not a history book, but a lot of the things he writes in the book, majority of the book was written like it's a history book. So your mind is tricked to think you're actually reading actual history, the account of history, not a Cliff Note version by Jason Reynolds with his own biases, opinions, interpretations sprinkled in there throughout. I was almost tricked that I was actually reading history. And then I caught myself on it. But he's a really talented writer. It's a very well-written book. And if your kids get hold of this book, they might fall for it. I mean, my daughter was kind of falling for it. I had to talk to her a little bit about it. She's pretty smart, but we had to talk about it. She's reading this in her class, in her woke school, and I'm sure lots of other woke schools are reading this book around the country, indoctrinating our children into one thought, which is kind of the predominant thing going around more and more in this nation, and I'm sure they're trying to wake up other kids that don't even want to be woke up. Well, let's get into the meat of the book. This book is basically a timeline of the progression of racism at its worst to as it's progressing to being much less worse today, but still around until the point when it's almost gone completely. It starts way back. It starts back with the king who's pronounced the first racist. It talks about a guy, I can't remember the guy's name real quick, sorry. It's a funny name. I can't remember his name. When I want to find it, I can't. His name is Zurara, and he is a black person who actually sold his own people into slavery for money. And he is the beginnings of the book, and then they move forward. They have Harriet Tubman, they have Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, and they move forward to Abraham Lincoln, then moving forward to JFK and MLK, and then move forward to Obama, and it pretty much ended there. But they interview a lot of very influential people that have moved us forward in this progress to getting past our racist ideals from way back when. And each person, most people in this book, the author, Jason, has a classification he gives to them. And they're one of three things. Each person is either a segregationist, which is, in his estimation, a hater, an assimilationist. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing that great. I'm not too great on this kind of tongue twister word. And that assimilationist is basically a coward in his mind, or an anti-racist, which the end-all be-all, and those are someone who truly loves. He's figured it all out. Jason's got it all figured out. And he puts it out for you. And let's talk a little bit about who he sees in the segregationist. Well, he obviously sees that guy Zuri that I told you about before, way back when. He sees slave owners and people who brought people over from Africa to sell as slaves, and a lot of other people, including Stonewall Jackson, I think Robert E. Lee, a lot of other people, and those are the haters. And then the next class is the assimilationist, and that he talks about a lot of people are assimilationists. A lot of them are in that middle group, and those are considered the cowards. Now, an idea of who those cowards are, somebody I kind of look up to, pretty amazing man, that would be Abraham Lincoln. He is considered a coward in Jason's mind. You know, the man that got us through the Civil War, freed the slaves, Emancipation Proclamation, the Gettysburg Address. You know, one of the greatest presidents we had. He is a coward. That's right, he's a coward. The man who got shot by John Wilkes Booth because he didn't agree with some of the stuff he did. Another person he says is a coward is Booker T. Washington, a black man who inspired many slaves to empower themselves, to educate themselves and learn a skill so they could pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and overcome the racist white men that were trying to hold them down and empower themselves to be better up through the ranks. But apparently he's a coward too. And MLK, I think, is on that coward range too. You know, the guy who I have a dream speech, and the guy who did civil rights walk, you know, has a holiday named after him, believed in equal rights for all, and did a lot of amazing things to bring us past racist ideals. He's a coward. You know, that guy that got shot for what he believes in? Jason thinks he's a coward too. Let's go to the last category that Jason sets us up for, and that is the anti-racist, the end-all be-alls. He calls it someone who truly loves. So let me get you an example of some people that he calls that. Marcus Garvey is a man around the time of W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington who did a lot of stuff to help blacks get past their racist and see them for who they are and empower themselves. He didn't live in America. He lived in a different nation. I forgot where he lived. I think in the Caribbean somewhere. But he did also think that some blacks were better than everybody else. That they were better than whites or any other race. They were the masters. They were superior. I don't know about you, but I don't believe in that idea. I kind of believe in this idea of equality. All men are created equal. You know that thing in the Constitution? We have there that little thing that our whole country's based on, the DNA of our nation. That thing. I kind of believe in that a little more than what Marcus Garvey preached. That guy is an anti-racist, someone who truly loves. Another person who's an anti-racist is actually a group of people. That would be the Black Panthers. The group behind Black Power, which is an empowering thing, did great things for blacks and moving them fast past racism and standing against those who try to hold them down and oppress them. But they were a pretty violent group. They killed a good many people and carried guns and did some brutally horrific things. And that leads me to the last person, one who's kind of buddy-buddy with the Black Panthers, and that would be Angela Davis. You know, Jason must really like this woman because in the final acknowledgments of his book, he says basically that he wants to thank Thomas Jefferson, William Lloyd Garrison, W.E.B. Du Bois, a lot of other people, and then he writes Angela Davis, Angela Davis, Angela Davis 3 times, as if I couldn't read it the first time. Kind of like when I was in school and I had to stay after and write I will not chew gum 25 times on the chalkboard. I guess he had that kind of same idea. Hey, Jason, I got it after the first time. Well, let's talk a little bit about Angela Davis and her being someone who truly loves and anti-racist. Granted, she did a lot of great things. She was an advocate for social justice. She did a lot of action. She was a social justice warrior. She helped with civil rights movement. She wrote great things. But she was, or still is today, a self-confirmed communist. I don't know about you, but I'm not too hip on communism. It has never succeeded in the history of our planet. Pick any continent, any country, Russia, China, Cuba, all over. Lenin, Stalin, Castro, constant Chinese dictators, brutalized their people, murdered them, imprisoned them, tortured them, treated them like crap under the auspiciousness of communism. It doesn't work. So I'm not too fond on Angela Davis, to tell you the truth. Let me tell you another thing about Angela Davis. She was, like I said, buddy-buddy with the Black Panthers. Well, there was a time when she was prosecuted for killing, or part of killing 5 people in a courtroom where guns got in the courtroom. Well, she got off of those charges. She was reconciled from those. But it was proven that she did provide the guns that killed those 5 people in the courtroom. So I wouldn't say she's off scot-free on that. And this is a person that Jason Reynolds in this book stamped calls an anti-racist in the crescendo. And my daughter was kind of really high on her too, and then I kind of got the history book out and showed you the real history, not the small version, cut and paste kind that he put in this book to kind of brainwash you. But let me get into what really things bug me about this book. What really bugs me about them? The self-righteousness and condescension of Jason Reynolds in this book is not good. Like I said, he's a talented author. And I do not think he put his skills to the test in this book. I didn't think they did him justice. For one, Jason Reynolds lives in 2021, a very different day than back in the day. Not near as many racists around. And when you say comments like he said in the book today, not many people are going to come burn a cross in your front yard or come after you or string you up or do all sorts of things that they do to other people like they did back then. So to call those other people cowards is a bit naive and a bit sophomorish, showing his age a little bit there. Like I said, he lives in 2021, and he's talking about people that lived back in a day when racism was all around him. They did not have the luxury to say whatever they wanted and not have a consequence. They had to be very careful in their words, or they may be strung up in a tree, killed in a ditch, hit, beaten, whatever. So maybe they shouldn't say exactly what's on their mind because they might be not around the next day to say it. And like Abraham Lincoln, maybe he wanted to really make things happen, but he realized if he said something way out there, he wouldn't get where he was today, where we are today. Because there were more racists around him. There were racists everywhere around. Today, there are more people that aren't racist that are racist. So he has a very self-righteous idea, that Jason Reynolds. Also, Booker T. Washington, are you kidding me? If he had said some of the things that Jason thinks he would say back then, he would have been strung up for sure. But the way he did it was smart, courageous, and strategic, and he knew what he needed to do to help blacks to get them further along this process of ending racism. The wheel is not built overnight, Jason Reynolds, as you think it is. And here's something you need to think about too, my friend. If all those men back then, including Martin Luther King, had not have been the so-called cowards that you call him and stood up like you do in your book, so high and mighty, like Abraham Lincoln, MLK, and Booker T. Washington, you might very well be a slave this day. You might. And when you have chains around your hands, it's kind of hard to write the book that you want to write right now, huh? Right now you can tap away in your New York studio on your iPad or whatever you do and demonize people and cancel people that sorry didn't reach your level of fighting racism, calling cowards. But I promise you, my friend, I'm very sure you would not write that book back then. So don't be so high and mighty on what you think. And secondly, you might even call me an assimilationist. I grew up in the South. I'm a white guy. I'm sure the white privilege thing's going to be thrown at me and a million things said at me. I don't care, dude. It doesn't bug me. I grew up in the South among racism all around me in the 70s. I had many black friends. My best friends were blacks. Still are today. I fought racism with my words and my fist, who came after my friends verbally, attacking them, mocking them, ridiculing, persecuting, even hitting them and pushing them to the ground. And I used my fist to do it. I probably could have done more, and you probably call me a coward too. But I don't think I was a coward because I got black eyes and bloody lips. But I was happy to do it. And those people back then, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington Carver, and plenty others, I'm sure got plenty of bruises and scrapes on them at the same time. So do me a favor and quit demonizing, canceling people, and having this self-righteous idea and this standard in your book. and not giving people credit for the things they do. Little credit, and just nitpicking the hell out of these people. I really enjoyed your book. Like I said that. But I have a lot of problems with it. And I think you're a talented author, Jason. But I do think you can do better. You can write a book that can bring people together more. Talk about the humanity of all of us. The prejudice that we all have in us. Every one of us has some kind of prejudice. If we don't think that to ourselves, we're telling ourselves a lie. Based on our experience, our upbringing, where we lived in the country, and what our parents taught us, we are learning more and more not to be prejudiced. But it was really very easy to be prejudiced back then because you were ignorant of what was going on, and you stuck what kept you alive, and people follow conformity. And those guys did not follow conformity. They might have been the end-all be-all like you wanted them to. My point is, we all have prejudice. I have mine. I used to have mine against homosexuals growing up in the South, where they're all in the closet, and I made fun of them and had no understanding of them and was ignorant and scared and whatever. And I moved to California and joined a creative field as a copywriter, and I had them all around me, and I got rid of those prejudices and those wrong assumptions, and now I don't have those. But there are all kind of prejudices we all have in all shape or form. And one day, you may be canceled for something you have a prejudice toward that you don't even realize right now. Like your buddy Ibram X. Kendi. Sounds like he has a little bit of a prejudice towards transgenders. I'm not going to demonize him for that, because we all got ours, and I'm sure you got some yourself. So I want you to embrace the humanity in all of us, the prejudice, the mistakes, how beautifully human we are. In your next book, please. Do something more uniting instead of something so woke and accusatory of people who did great things in our nation, white and colored black. Well, that's about all I've got to say about the book. The book is stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. I give this book 3 alarm clocks on my rating of up to 5. I am sure there are more woke books out there, and I'm sure I will review those books, movies, TV shows, whatever, in the coming months, because y'all will pass them on to me. I will find them, and I will review them here so you can see them, so you can get the lowdown, not the kind of sit in the middle. Try to give you the version that's not so woke. That's about it. Y'all got any suggestions of what I should do for next week? Let me know. I have some ideas, but I haven't decided what I'm going to interview for Woke Up. Till next week, stay awake, not woke. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week on Woke Up.